Why that occurred, you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Mike. Yeah, I'm interested. What was his take on it?
Well, he believed, and I agreed with him, as a matter of fact, that especially in my generation and your generation, there began to be a questioning of authority. The Vietnam War came into play. High officials had been lying about what was happening in Vietnam. I remember it quite distinctly. I was later on. I was in the military and was sent overseas, and I was very suspicious of what we were being told, to say the very least. Of course, there were some scandals involving ministers. We talked about Billy James Hargis down in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who founded a church that had a choir, the American Christian Church, I believe, and he was a very seriously conservative minister. Well, a couple of his choir members, a male and a female, of course, were talking about a week before they were to be married when they had a come to Jesus moment. They decided to confess to each other that they had been having sex with a person, and they wanted each other to know. Well, it turned out they were having sex with the same person, and that was Billy James Hargis, the minister who thought the Beatles were immoral. Well, he initially denied it, but several other members of the choir, male and female, came forward to say that yes, this has been happening to them. Now, I don't know what effect that would have on young religious people, but it couldn't have been positive, I'll tell you that.
I think it would be devastating.
Oh, terribly. But I think and I don't know if this is an example of people having less faith, but I pointed out that the Bible in the early church was in Latin, and of course, only a few could read Latin. And as I recall from my Western civilization studies, Latin wasn't even a real language. But when they began printing the Bible in individual languages of different countries, and people could actually read for themselves what was in the Bible, that caused the Reformation. That caused scholars like Martin Luther or John Calvin to split from Rome and start other denominations. I don't know if that's not exactly the same thing, because people remained devout. They just went in a different direction. I mean, Calvin and Luther were very devout, and all the reformers most of them were ex-priests. So I don't know if that caused people to fall away from the faith or not. But there are just so many instances and so many cultural changes that we could point to and say this is the reason. But I know as a young Catholic, I questioned whether the God of love I was being taught could be capable of sending people to hell for missing Mass on Sunday. That didn't seem to rhyme with me, Joe.
Sure, and you're not alone. You know, there's a distinct difference between an angry God of the Old Testament,
oh yeah,
and a loving God and a peaceful God of the New Testament,
sure.
And that seeming contradiction creates havoc in many circles. The other thing that you're looking at is the Septuagint, which was really the Torah translated into Greek. The first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch, everything else was essentially in Aramaic. And so what you do is you get a guy like St. Jerome, translating the Bible into Latin, and then Latin being translated into English or French or whatever. And then you have the Gutenberg press come along, just like you've talked about. You have a dissemination of the Bible instead of like one big Bible, if you will, in a cathedral or a monastery, which the monks look after and that nobody can get their hands on really and read. Now, all of a sudden, we have this cascading opening of intellectual curiosity, which has only been increased geometrically down until today. So we get, this growing of science, and lots of times we don't stop to think that technology and increased knowledge and social intercourse across the globe also doesn't let theology catch up with it, or theology takes a little while to catch up with it. Now, I don't particularly ascribe to that, but I think that there's a real good argument to be made that that happened. And so what you're talking about is the age-old thing, which the Bible talks about, is those in authority who give scandal, better a millstone be tied around their necks. And all of our listeners can identify with that particular metaphor of a millstone being tied around the neck. And that's what that is. That means if there's someone who is in a position of authority, abuses that authority, or somehow leads someone astray by virtue of their office, then we learned early on that has catastrophic effect.
It did, yeah. I wonder if modernism itself, I don't know, this is, again, such a tough call for me anyway. Maybe it's not for you, but yeah, the Gutenberg press was a thunderclap in Christianity. I don't think it was realized at the time how important that was. And then Martin Luther and others dramatically breaking with the church. And by the way, if you remember the story of Luther, there was a couple of rockhead Catholic bishops who were trying to excommunicate Luther, as I recall, for nothing. But
well, one might look at the cathedral at Augsburg and the 95 Theses posted on the door, and you and I could probably dissect each one of those 95 areas that he thought that there was some supreme lacking on. And we could probably agree that on many of them, there were some problems that had to be addressed.
Sure. Because
the church is made up of men administering the church. The Holy Spirit guides it, but we men, we're in there messing up all the time. So, yeah, the problem is we can call it modernism, and there have been a number of encyclicals written by popes on modernism. We could also talk about relativism and the idea of, the entire cosmos is, everything is relative to me in the way that I see it. Well, we know if that's the case, there are going to be a lot of blind people. It's just like that old adage everybody says, an eye for an eye. Well, we know that that's crazy, because if that were the case, the world would be blind. Now, our job always, in my judgment, at every step of our existence, is try to discern how we are being a part of the Creator's plan, not only for us, but our fellow men at the time and our world at the time. And most of the time, contemporary society doesn't give us the time to do that. One of the benefits, Mike, of COVID has been everything has slowed down. And remember how you and I don't know about you, but I know about I used to say, gee, if I just had a week or a month where everything slowed down and stopped, and I could just kind of reconnoiter and find out where I am. I don't know about you, but I've wasted these last 10 months. I could have done a lot better. I just got lazy, and I didn't stop to think of what a gift this pandemic has been in the sense of slowing down the world for our relationships, not only with our Creator, but with our own families.
I'm going to have to ask you to elaborate on that a little bit, because we really were encouraged to stay apart even for Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Christmas celebrations.
Yeah, I agree. What I mean is we were taking the time to discern what the nature of our relationships are with our family. Mm-hmm. You know, if that's akin to meditation, if you will, or praying on it, or actually in this day and age, just finally thinking about it. But
did you ever?
Go ahead, please.
Did you ever have doubts as a young man about your faith?
Well, of course. I think if you don't have doubts about your faith, and you aren't, then you aren't really thinking about your faith. You aren't really working about it. You know, I think I told you the story once. My younger brother Kevin was in the Jesuits for 8 years, and sure. when it came time for me to do my first homily, he said, "You ought to talk about the Hindu Indian and regeneration of life." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, there's this story about a Hindu, and actually there were 2 Hindus, and one Hindu took him 8 times before he got, if you will, to nirvana, before he made it to heaven. And there was another Hindu that it took him 2 times. And that guy that took 2 times, you know what he was doing? He was always shaking his fist at the Lord. He was always fighting with the Lord. He was always wrestling with the Lord. Lord, why have you done this to me? Why am I not getting a better shake that my neighbor is getting?" And all the time he was engaged with the Lord, literally wrestling with the Lord. Took him 2.
Joe Coleman is our guest. Joe, can you call us back right after the news, right at 3:10?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I do. I do have a news release here, an announcement that I have to read you, and this is from the Sheriff's Department. On Monday, January the 4th, 2021, at approximately 8 a.m., the Webster County deputies were dispatched to 2055 South 12th Street here in town for a report of an individual suffering from a gunshot wound. When deputies arrived on scene, they found a 28-year-old white male who had been shot by an unknown firearm. The victim stated that 2 white males and 1 black male had forced their way into his residence and that each were in possession of firearms. The victim was able to identify one of the individuals as Tyler S. Rosberg, who was born October 30th, 1991, and stated that all 3 left the residence in a white Chevrolet following the shots fired. The gunshot victim received medical treatment on scene for his injuries and was transported to Unity Point Trinity Regional Medical Center for further treatment. Within minutes of this call, Chief Deputy Derek Christie observed a white Chevrolet traveling westbound on 11th Avenue Southwest in Fort Dodge and attempted to conduct a traffic stop. The driver of the vehicle refused to stop, and a short pursuit ensued traveling through Fort Dodge before the vehicle crashed on the Hawkeye Avenue Bridge near the intersection of 2nd Street Northwest. Tyler S. Rosberg was then taken into custody and transported to the Webster County Law Enforcement Center on the following charges: robbery in the first degree, a Class B felony, and possession of a firearm as a felon, a Class D felony. As with all cases, Mr. Rosberg is considered innocent until proven guilty. We'll have a little bit more on that in the next hour when Rob Jones gives us a full report. It's 4 o'clock. Yeah, Joe Coleman will be with us after the news. This is AM 1400 KBFD.
Straight talk on life and money. This is the Dave Ramsey Show on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
An appeal to both sides of the aisle. Lisa Brady, Fox News. The battle for control of the U.S. Senate hinges on two runoff elections tomorrow in Georgia. Over 3 million early voted, but the state's election manager, Gabriel Sterling, is concerned that President Trump's claims of voter fraud will prevent others from turning out.
If you care about, the values and directions of the nation you want to see, it is your obligation to turn out and vote tomorrow, be you Democrat or Republican.
He also defends the state's election integrity after the president's weekend phone call with the Georgia Secretary of State, who rejected his suggestion that more than enough fraudulent votes could be found to overturn the November results. Both the president and president-elect are rallying in Georgia today for the Senate candidates. Meantime, another election-related lawsuit is tossed out by a federal judge.
The lawsuit filed by two Republican Wisconsin lawmakers and other groups sought to nullify election results in Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. President-elect Biden flipped all 5 states after President Trump carried them in 2016. The lawsuit alleged a cabal of public-private partnerships illegally conspired to prevent the president from winning those battleground states. It also sought to have state legislatures approve the certification of election results. The judge ruling the plaintiff's argument rests on a fundamental and obvious misreading of the Constitution, adding it is not a stretch to find a serious lack of good faith here. Steve Rappaport, Fox News.
Election anxiety getting part of the blame for a sell-off on Wall Street's first trading day of the year. The Dow down 382 points, though it had been even worse during the session. The S&P and the NASDAQ also sliding more than 1%. As COVID cases keep rising, over 85.5 million worldwide. In the U.S. now, nearly 353,000 deaths. Britain's prime minister announcing a new national lockdown through at least mid-February as a new, more contagious strain spreads quickly. America's listening to Fox News.
What can give you a competitive edge in today's red-hot housing market? Rocket can. That's because Rocket Mortgage can give you a verified approval. It could help your offer stand out, because when you find the perfect home, you don't want to lose it to anybody else. Rocket Technology provides a rock-solid verification of your income, assets, and credit, giving sellers and their agents greater confidence in you. We've already helped over 1 million clients just like you reach their home financing goals this year alone. So remember this, what can help you buy the home you really want? Rocket can. Go to rocketmortgage.com or call us today at 8338-ROCKET. That's rocketmortgage.com or call 8338-ROCKET.
A verified approval is based on an underwriter's analysis of your individual financial information, appraisal, and title report. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states at MLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030.
The founder of WikiLeaks remains in a British jail after an extradition hearing.
A British judge ruled WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange should not be extradited to the U.S. He's wanted on 18 counts of espionage for his leaking of military documents and diplomatic cables. The judge citing his mental condition, saying he could be a suicide risk in American prisons. A spokesperson for the Department of Justice says it's disappointed and intends to appeal the decision. For that reason, Assange is expected to remain in custody here. The judge did not rule against the basics of the charges. 49-year-old Assange potentially faces life in prison if found guilty.
Fox's Greg Palcott in London, where Assange supporters hailed today's decision as victory for free speech, even though the judge appeared to reject the defense's First Amendment argument, saying she believes Assange's actions went beyond investigative journalism. The man accused of organizing an illegal New Year's Eve party in France, attended by over 2,000 people, is now charged with endangering lives and other offenses. Hundreds of others have been charged with violating pandemic-related rules. A soccer star makes history on social media.
Cristiano Ronaldo becomes the first person to surpass 250 million followers on Instagram. The soccer superstar, who now has over 251 million followers, taking to the site to celebrate, thanking fans for their support and telling them they are part of his journey. The 35-year-old athlete, the most popular famous figure on Instagram, followed by singer Ariana Grande, who has 214 million followers, and actor and professional wrestler Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who has 209 million followers. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
Separated loved ones setting records for Facebook platforms on New Year's Eve, the biggest single day ever for WhatsApp, with more than 1.4 billion voice and video calls globally. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, Your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News Update, I'm Rob Jones. An arrest has been made following a Monday morning robbery and shooting here in Fort Dodge. The Webster County Sheriff's Office responded to a call of a man suffering from a gunshot wound around 8 a.m. on South 12th Street here in Fort Dodge. Upon arrival, they found a man who had been shot. The man told deputies that 3 men forced entry into his home. The victim identified one of the suspects as 29-year-old Tyler S. Rosberg. The 3 suspects then fled the scene in a vehicle prior to the officers arriving. Minutes later, Chief Deputy Derek Christie spotted the suspect vehicle and attempted a traffic stop. The driver then led police on a pursuit through Fort Dodge and crashed on the Hawkeye Avenue Bridge near 2nd Street Northwest. Rosberg was then taken into custody. He's charged with first-degree robbery and possession of a firearm by a felon. On Sunday, Randy Feenstra was sworn in as the next representative for Iowa's 4th Congressional District. Upon being sworn in, Feenstra said, quote, "I'm truly humbled that Iowans in the 4th District elected me to represent them in the halls of Congress, and I will work relentlessly to make sure they have a seat at the table when making decisions that affect our farmers and main streets. I look forward to working with my colleagues in Iowa and throughout the country on delivering conservative solutions that will create a booming economy for taxpayers and allow our rural communities to grow and thrive," end quote. Feenstra is a Republican from Hull who defeated incumbent Steve King in the primary back in June for the Republican nomination and then defeated Democratic nominee J.D. Scholten. Prior to becoming the 4th District Congressman, Feenstra served as an Iowa State Senator. A local law enforcement officer has hung up his badge after over 3 decades of service. Retirement has now gone in effect for Chief Deputy Rod Strait of the Webster County Sheriff's Office. Strait started his career with the Fort Dodge PD in 1988. As a rookie on the force, he rescued a person from a burning car. That heroic act led to him being named Officer of the Year as a rookie. In 1996, he left the Fort Dodge PD and began working for the Webster County Sheriff's Office. For 16 years there, he patrolled for the sheriff's office, then was promoted to chief deputy in 2012, a position he served in until his retirement. High school basketball on your radio tonight. The St. Edmund Gales are back in action as they'll be on the road taking on Webster City. Join KC Miners on the call of all the action tonight. The girls' game slated to tip off at 6:15 with the boys to follow on your home for St. Edmund basketball, Sunny 99.7 and yourfortdodge.com. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Highs around 37 this afternoon under clear skies, northwest winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Tonight, lows dip down to about 12. Cloudy skies, tomorrow 33. Temps above average Wednesday and Thursday with highs in the low 30s. Chance for snow Wednesday. A dusting of snow Wednesday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 37.
During this challenging and unprecedented time, Gunderson's is here to serve with expert guidance and understanding to each family and their unique needs. We provide options for funeral, cremation, memorial, virtual, and webcast services, either presently or at a later date. We understand that grief does not wait. We are trained to help you walk this path to bring comfort and support. Every life deserves to be recognized and celebrated, whether it be together or afar.
Hi, I'm Dr. Josh from Active Health Clinics.
And I'm Dr. Zach. It's 2021, and we're in the new age of healthcare.
We want to get you excited about the new and cutting-edge alternative healthcare opportunities we offer to our patients.
Let us teach you how to avoid drugs and unnecessary surgeries by using our body to heal itself with regenerative medicine.
The possibilities Active Health Clinics is bringing to you are endless. Our patients won't be restricted by pain or injury, and they'll live their best life.
Find out more when you visit us at Active Health Clinics, Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
That's right. That's what we're doing, making radio great again. We're waiting a call from Joe Coleman, a well-known area man. Of course, Joe is a lawyer and a deacon in the Catholic Church, a devout Catholic, and It's always great to have Joe as a guest. I haven't talked to him in quite a while because I've had that COVID thing, which I'll tell you, made me a believer in masks. Made me a believer in masks. I know that masks are an imperfect solution. As a matter of fact, there's no perfect solution. I could get COVID again, as bad as I had it, and I was on oxygen for a week and off work for almost 3 months. Couldn't walk for at least a month, but at least we have Joe Coleman on the air with us here.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, how you doing there, Joe?
Great. Happy New Year again.
Happy New Year to you, sir. Joe Coleman and I were in, and of course, Monday's kind of a religious day because I have Pastor Austin Hill of the Presbyterian Church and Joe Coleman as a representative of the Catholic Church. And I didn't know you had a younger brother that was a priest.
Yes. Well, he left the Jesuits. Jesuits are an 11-year operation before you're ordained, and he left after 8 years.
Okay. All right.
So he was not ordained.
Let's talk a little bit. Go right ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go.
Let's talk a little bit about the different orders. I'm not even sure what the Dominicans are, or the Franciscans, or the Jesuits. You don't have to make a long description, but what are there? 5 different orders in the priesthood?
Oh, there are more than that. Quite frankly, Mike, I don't know how many orders there are, but I can tell you there's a lot more than 5.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, many of the orders came about as a result of the Reformation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know the Jesuits in particular were formed to counterbalance what was going on in Europe at the time of what Catholics call the Protestant revolt or the breakaway, or however you want to describe it. And so that's when they came into being, and they're each specialized doing different things. The Jesuits are primarily, I guess today, known as teachers. In their day, they were missionaries. Some of the first missionaries here in North America were Jesuits, and so they do wonderful things. Some are contemplative. That means like you think of the Trappists, who are praying all the time, and are secluded from the world, focusing on God and on themselves. And then you have others like, for example, the Maryknolls, who are out in the field in the missions, all the time. So it just depends on what the founders of those orders saw the mission of the men that they were gathering to them to be.
Sure. Now, when you say found in order, I suppose that's a process that has to have the approval of Rome.
Correct.
I mean, do you know any of the requirements for a new order?
I think the short answer is no. My hallucination is that when a gentleman believes that he has a particular calling and can garner men to himself, that they go to Rome and they say, we would like to form this society under your authority to perform a specific function, like to work in hospitals or work in the mission, work on reservations, whatever it might be.
Is there a particular order that's dedicated to defending the church, or is there a warrior class?
I'm partial, I'm biased, but I would say that's the Jesuits.
That's kind of what I thought, that the Jesuits were the Pope's men, as I heard somewhere.
Yeah, and I'm sure we have plenty of listeners out there that are shaking their heads right now saying that the Jesuits are the problem. They're not the solution.
Well, Nevin Mulholland, a Catholic lawyer here in town, went to Creighton. And I believe that's still a Jesuit school. It certainly was when Nevin went there.
and was when I went there as well.
Oh, that's right. You're a Creighton graduate as well.
Exactly.
What made you pick Creighton?
I picked Creighton at the time. You and I are roughly contemporaries, Mike. The war was going on, and I was a farm kid. I could afford to go to Creighton. I wanted to go to a Jesuit school. It was certainly more expensive than Iowa State or University of Iowa or Northern Iowa. But I wanted to go to a Jesuit school, and that was the least expensive one close to me. I would have loved to have gone to Georgetown, or Boston College, either one. And actually, when I was in high school, because I went away to a prep school, I was accepted to both. But finances being what they were on the farm, you stayed a little closer to home.
So this whole your faith that came about because you were a draft dodger. Is that what you're telling me here, Joe?
One of the things I'm like you. I know you were in and you served. I got commissioned in '68, and I actually chose the infantry and wanted to go fly Cobra helicopters in Vietnam. That was my big goal when I was in my early 20s, was to be a helicopter pilot in Southeast Asia. Tells you how foolish I was, doesn't it?
I was going to say that would have been a pretty dangerous job.
But when we're young, we think we're immortal and invincible both.
How old are you, Joe? You're like 71, right?
No, I'm going to be 75 this year.
Okay, all right. So you were right in the middle of that whole Vietnam thing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well,
Now,
all right.
Bill Clinton and I are contemporaries, but I could never bring myself to be a Bill Clinton fan because of his stance. But that's another story for a different time when we're not talking religion.
I worked in Arkansas in the 1980s at a radio station there. And Bill Clinton, believe it or not, was a pretty popular governor. He wasn't as liberal as governor of Arkansas as he was as president. And his wife didn't have such a prominent role as first lady of the state of Arkansas as she did as first lady of the country. But that all, being on the national stage, changed them. Of course, it changes everybody. Yeah, he was he was well liked in Arkansas.
Yeah, and when you talk about both Bill and Hillary, I mean, you're talking about two very, very, hurtfully smart people.
Oh, yeah.
Bill Clinton wasn't a Rhodes Scholar, and Hillary didn't go to Wesley because they were dummies.
No, absolutely not. Very bright people. Bill Clinton apparently, of course, I just saw news clips of him, but apparently if you got him in private and asked him about a specific bill before Congress, he could practically recite the bill to you. Very bright guy. Very bright guy.
That would not surprise me. And my hallucination is that Barack Obama could probably have done the same thing.
What do you think as a Christian now of President Trump?
Well, when Donald Trump was elected president, he was my president, and I wanted him to do exceedingly well.
Me too.
I wanted him to have everything go his way, and I wanted him to fall within the category of a great president. I think history and circumstances will show that just didn't happen. But
well, I talked a little earlier today when Barack Obama was president. Rush Limbaugh got on the air and said, I want him to fail. And I was, I listen to Rush every now and then, but I thought that was horrible. If Barack Obama...
It is horrible. And, all of my friends that know me and some of them who might be listening to this are, will know because I've told them I wanted Donald Trump to succeed.
Absolutely.
And what the tragedy of all of this is this COVID thing was a gift wrapped, in my judgment, a gift wrapped package for him to move into the area of a great leader. What could have been. Just think about what could have been had we, had really geared up, taken it seriously in the social distancing and mask, and always putting out the truth. Never putting out any fiction, always the truth. I think Donald Trump could have hit a home run.
Oh, me too.
Instead I'm a pretty whip.
Well, the economy in January was terrific. And if it wouldn't have been for COVID, Donald Trump would have cruised to re-election. Nobody really likes Joe Biden that well. I mean, he's a decent human being. I'm not saying he's a bad guy or anything. But nobody really feels strongly about Joe Biden. They did feel strongly, or the Democrats felt strongly about removing Trump from the presidency, but they didn't have the horses at that time to get the job done.
Michael, I always hear you and I listen to what you say, but always know that just because I'm being silent doesn't mean I agree with it.
No. That's not a requirement on this show. No, I originally envisioned this show as a sounding board where everybody with different opinions could be on the air and talk about their opinions here at KVFD, and I wanted a more local focus, like, well, I'm having a pothole problem down here in the south end of town or something like that. It didn't turn out that way. I guess we're too small a town to have people call in regularly. I've had a lot of people say, I almost called in the other day. Well, why didn't you? Well, I didn't want anybody to know that I was calling. I don't understand that, but that's the way.
No, I mean, I think respectfully, I think you sell yourself short. I think your program where you call in and ask people of differing opinions, and you engage people, you're performing a vital service. I mean, it's the fourth estate, and on the air. It's marvelous. People should be engaged in differing opinions all of the time. And that's one of the things that we've suffered through, in my judgment, that you can't have your own opinion. You can't have a differing opinion. Because if you differ from my opinion, you're a traitor?
Well,
where's that coming from?
That's another thing I started with today. Was a group of people, just about the time I went to the hospital, they didn't know I was sick. In fairness, I have to tell you that. But there was a petition that went around to our elected officials by some folks I believe in Ward 2, who were trying to get elected officials not to appear on this radio program because apparently I wasn't leading people in the right direction, as they put it. Leading people in the right direction?
I can understand that. I can understand that. Why, if you were an elected official that couldn't find your derriere with both hands, why would you ever risk going on a radio program with somebody who might come armed with facts?
Well, I've probably been a rough on a couple of elected officials, but you're right. The elected officials who won't appear on the program are afraid they'll be exposed. Really, they don't know what they're doing. And that's
we see that going on in Georgia today, don't we?
Yes.
Right now, in this election, no debate, or one of the candidates wouldn't show up, just refused to debate, show up, and the other candidate had a canned speech. The last time she debated, the moderator told her that she had used the same thing 13 times in the one debate. It defies logic. It defies logic to me. I'm so, I think everybody, regardless of what side you're on, truly love this country and don't realize it's our pluralism and it's our diversity which makes us what we are. And if we were homogeneous, like some people want to have, that we're all of one mind, I think we would suffer greatly.
Oh, yeah.
I really do.
I do have a good news story, though. When I got sick, and I was pretty sick, one of the first people to call and text and volunteer to help was County Supervisor Nikki Conrad. Now, Nikki and I do not see the world in the same way, to say the very least. But she brought me Thanksgiving dinner. How do you like that? Now,
Hey, and let me say something aside. Anybody that knows Nikki, who's surprised by that?
Well, I kind of was. not because I thought she was a bad person. I had met her before she was supervisor, and I knew absolutely that she was not a bad person. But I believe that she had fallen in with a crowd that believed that there was no point in appearing on my show, or that I was a bad guy or something. And of course, I didn't agree with that. And by the way, when I say that, I'm only speculating. I think all elected officials have some sort of responsibility to appear on this program, not because of me or I'm cool or this, that, or the other thing. No, it's to answer questions from the public. And if the public won't call, then I have a list of prepared questions that I'll ask them on behalf of the public. I think that that should be done. But I was very impressed with Nikki Conrad and others who came forward with best wishes. And I got so much soup at home.
Nice.
I mean, I've said many times I'm an immigrant to Fort Dodge. I came down from Algona about 40 some years ago. But I'm always proud to say that that Fort Dodge is my home. And this was just another reason. I've told stories over the many years on this radio station about strangers just off the street. I need help. My car's broke down. They stepped forward and never told me their name. They helped me and got me back going, and just waved and got in their car or truck and took off. I mean, that has happened to me a few times over the many, many years. And I can't say enough about the people of Fort Dodge. We still have this kind of rough and tough image here in Fort Dodge. And I suppose that's there, or part of it is still there. But
we certainly do, and we certainly have that image. And hopefully, as time goes on, we'll shed it, and we'll let me leave it right there. We'll shut it. If I were to be a media critic of your program, what I would say is that there's not enough time to fully engage our elected officials. It seems to me, I agree with you. I think elected officials ought to be on the program and should be seeking you out rather than you seeking them out, and pick a subject. If they want to talk about potholes one day, if they want to talk about the money to fix the clock tower one time, but then have maybe an hour or an hour and a half to really get into the meat of the issue so everybody could understand.
Well, I'm going to keep trying. Joe Coleman has been our guest. Joe, thank you so much for being on the program. I look forward to talking to you next Monday.
My pleasure.
All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
All right, it's 428. The news is next.
Hi, it's Steve Mann. Have you heard the commercials for the Mark Patrick Stop Smoking seminars? And they said only $49.99 and it could work for you. So I thought, that's not even a week's worth of smoking. So I went. And guess what? It did work for me. My friends and family are still amazed. I quit smoking. I didn't have cravings, anxiety, or weight gain. Listen, I don't know how it works, but I know it works because I'm living proof, and it's 100% guaranteed. So what do you got to lose? I'll tell you what you got to lose. A very bad habit.
Stop smoking now without cravings, irritability, weight gain, or your money back. Only $49.99 guaranteed. Hypnosis designed to work without anxiety, irritability, or weight gain. Join Mark Patrick's hypnosis seminar and lose the weight, stop smoking, or end anxiety for only $49.99 guaranteed or your money back. Due to coronavirus, the seminar will now be online live Thursday, January 28th or Saturday, January 30th for the